it's good to take feedback, but not too much. We definitely had lots of people who were giving us great feedback, but sometimes it was overwhelming. I had this experience where I felt like I'm not doing enough, like there's still so much feedback coming. And then we did this retrospective after 1 year of being open. We went through the year and we were like, we did this. And I was like, oh my God, like we did really a lot. You're just so busy with all of these tasks. You have huge lists, like Trello boards, like out the butt. And you, and like you just like you put them in a done list and then you don't maybe look at the done list enough.
Welcome to the Rise and Play podcast. I am Sophie Vaux, your host and leadership coach. In the show, my wonderful co-host and I sit down with influential and diverse leaders from the gaming industry to hear about their leadership journey. Not the well-polished stories, but the real stories. The up and down, the breakthrough, and the failures. Or should we rather say learnings? Each episode will transport you into a magical space of vulnerability with our guest. And together, you'll be reminded that no matter how hard it is, you are not alone in this journey and find the courage to keep going. Come and join the ride. Let's begin. A former product leader who worked 16 years in the gaming industry, I know how difficult it is to get reliable and usable player insights. The logistics of scheduling, recruiting the right players, collecting and reviewing feedback, it is all time away from game development. But you know how fundamental it is to test assumptions with your core audience and iterate at a lower cost before marketing an unproven game. I am proud to announce Playtest Cloud as our key partner, as I have believed since day one in the quality of their service and their mission to democratize player research. Playtest Cloud can take the hassle out of organizing game research yourself and delivers results within 48 hours, allowing you to implement changes in time for your release. Having been a long-time user of the platform, it is the industry standard used by top AAA and mobile studios, and now they also support indie developers with special pricing. Working for a year on the wrong game is an expensive mistake, and you can de-risk it now by investing in your player research. Check out the show notes for a free trial and learn more about Playtest Cloud. So welcome to a new episode of Rise and Play. Happy Monday. So I usually don't record on Monday morning, but we take the challenge this morning with Juliane as we're busy women, entrepreneurs, co-founders. So I wanted to bring a special episode today. It's not a typical episode. Juliane is not a typical game leader as I usually bring, but in my also journey, exploring games, leadership, also giving more visibility to diverse leaders in the space, I found actually more and more intersection between building community spaces where game leaders meet together, including myself, to create the ecosystem, the environment, to create ideas, and for also entrepreneurs, creative leaders to come together. So this episode today is focused more on the community builders and the space builders to create the ecosystem that lead to games and for other game leaders to thrive. Just a bit of intro on Juliane. Juliane Becker come from Missouri, USA, but today lives in a rural Brandenburg. Diehard Berliners know what Brandenburg is, but it's the countryside of Berlin and a beautiful space I've been to a month ago where I went in my work also with my coaching, organizing retreats, and Orin, the Sisterhood for Women Leaders. I also got interest in those co-working spaces in nature, and Coconat is the space we're talking about that Julianne, who co-founded that space with our partners almost 7 years ago. And I spent an amazing time in nature, like a small retreat for myself. And I wanted to give more visibility to the spaces because those days when we all are working from home and trying to, create spark and ideas, just sitting in front of the computer, not meeting and talking to anyone, that's probably not the right direction to start to change things. And actually be more curious to spend time in person with other maybe strangers, other leaders in the right space in nature. So before I say more about Coconat and your background, Juliane, just wanted to welcome you to the show. So good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to talk.
So before we also even get into, okay, what's there for people who are in games and interested in those spaces, let's talk more also about your journey, because my focus is interviewing creative leaders who have been in transition of life, and this is very relevant these days because I'm talking to many professionals who are trying to find the next job, or maybe have done like a certain time in the career and then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I don't want to do that, but what's next, what can I do, and feeling a bit helpless or overwhelmed at the moment on what are the options. And what I love is like you for sure have been in a transition of career, built something, 7 years later it's been growing a community, and not just a space but a whole ecosystem. So going back to 7 years ago, before you co-founded Coconat, where were you?
Well, to go before Coconut, we actually would even go back 12 years because it took us 5 years of building and searching and testing to really open up this space. So 12 years ago, I was pretty new in Berlin. I had been living in Vietnam, working for a global NGO focused on environmental protection. I was leading the communications department of a country team, and I was working on other projects in the regional focus and that in Southeast Asia. And I moved to Berlin and I had to start from zero because I didn't speak German and I didn't have jobs in Europe. So I had to like start at zero, which was a really interesting place to be. I had like a few freelance gigs for a while. And then the first real job was with a startup with co-working, which I didn't know anything about. And the job was to research and write about co-working. Another part of the job was to organize a very large event in Berlin, which turned into Social Media Week Berlin, which
Mm.
had over 100 free events open to the public. The last version I did, we had 50% female representation for speakers. So this is like where I started to get into the startup scene of Berlin and also into co-working as a concept and thinking about community and how people support each other. So that's how I started to think about creating a space outside of the city. I saw this sort of desire for people in Berlin to get out of the city, spend some time in nature, but what we often heard was that, oh, the internet isn't so good, or the food is really hard for us, or we don't find a place that we really feel comfortable. So my partner and I were in our kitchen and we're like, this is the thing. Let's make this space. Long story short.
Yeah, it's quite an investment to start a space. I'm sure we will talk about that in a moment, but this is very daunting. You know, you don't just get suddenly a mention like this. It takes an upfront investment. It is a risk as well, pulling people away from the city. So I'm sure there were many challenges at that time where maybe you didn't have people ready for this kind of move. I'm curious about what were the challenges and how you overcame those.
From the idea phase, the proof of concept, which we did our proof of concept 10 years ago in another location.
Mm.
The biggest challenge was actually finding a space. So we were a bit naive, which I think is totally normal. When you have an idea, a new innovative idea, you might be naive about some of the challenges. And one challenge we had was finding the place. We had a very city view of the countryside in Germany. We thought there's castles everywhere. There's like these empty spaces that are just like €1 and you can buy them and turn them into something amazing. And so actually we were on a major search for about 2 years. Like we didn't find anything. And then finally, like a miracle, like we we found this place where we did the proof of concept. There we started on the next set of challenges, and there we encountered transportation issues in the countryside. But actually, the biggest issue we had for our business case was the internet. There was no internet at
Mm.
this place, and we spent 5 months trying to connect it in different ways. We came to the understanding after the whole proof of concept phase that actually to get high-speed internet to this location, we would have to spend 50,000 of our own private money to complete a connection of fiberglass cable, which was a kind of along with many other topics, like a no-go. We had to change course. Luckily, a lot of people had come to our proof of concept phase. They either helped to build it up or they actually came to experience the project in itself. And I have to say, we were able to get every target group that was in our business plan to come. And everybody said, yeah, it was great, and I would come back, but I need better internet. And we're like, okay, so this thing could work. We talked about this proof of concept. We told people we have this idea, it works, we just need a place. And then a few people from this region told us about where we are now, which is in Klein-Glien, Bad Belzig, a little bit southwest of Potsdam. Next challenge, the financing, of course. I mean, I think we all kind of know these different stories about big startups and that somebody started in their garage and then you find out actually, oh, their parents were quite wealthy and we didn't really have that situation. So we did have to work really hard on the financing, proving an innovative business model, which means that there's no proof that it could work. But we managed. We actually started running the business a little bit before all of the things were proved by the bank. We had the opportunity to do that. So we were actually able to prove the business case, and then they gave us the money to buy
Mm.
the property. So that's how we got started. And I think some things have changed with how you can finance your business in Germany since then. One of our biggest issues with the public funding part was that you could get funding for consultancy and you could get funding for development, but you couldn't get funding to pay yourself as a founder. That was really hard. So,
Oh,
yeah, like that was,
okay.
you couldn't put yourself in the grant. And that was like, okay, like that's fine. But we did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible.
I find it really inspiring how you share how you started almost like 10 years ago, where the conditions were they are never perfect when you start something that hasn't been done before. Yes, you need the money to start. And I understood that you took a loan, right? So it's not like the VC case or waiting. Basically, it's like, okay, we believe in what we're doing. We're going to lend money and we know we will return because here we have a proof of concept. We believe in what we're doing. We just need to start to build the case, have revenues generated. And you did actually even before you get the loan, which I think is a good reminder for people who are testing to start something. What I found a bit the attitude these days, and maybe because this is the time we live in, that was maybe more favorable to get external funding. It's really hard for people to start with themselves. Like, I'm going to lend money or I put my own money and start because I believe in my ideas. Like, no, I will start only when I receive money, because when if somebody can invest in my idea, that means it might work. So then I will start to believe in my idea. Of course, it's not conscious, but that's what I've noticed more. When I hear your story, you were sure. I mean, you were sure what you wanted to do and what you wanted to do with the money. This is a good reminder on how you can start a business. And the other challenge to start a business is also marketing, the word of mouth distribution. So you start a new space in the middle of Brandenburg. You're figuring out probably who's the audience for this. So how did you start to have your first customers, people who were in the space while you were still building the space? I'm curious about the first years running the business. And you probably needed a team as well to run properly the space.
Well, yeah, we did a lot of things. I mean, one thing that I was never afraid of was talking about the idea before we had started. So we were always telling people the idea and asking what they thought. And we had a lot of people be like, yeah, that's a great idea. So we always had this conversation. We weren't afraid to talk about it. I've met a lot of people who kind of want to wait. They're too nervous to start talking about something before it's ready. But I had like the opposite. I'm a talker. So I like to tell stories. I like to get feedback. So we talked about it all the time. Another thing that we did, because we have this physical space, is we invited people who were interested in the project or friends to come and help us renovate. So
Mm.
for both the proof of concept and for the final Coconut, we said, okay, if you come and you help us for a day, then you get a voucher for the future when it's ready. And also with the proof of concept, we ran a crowdfunding. So we kind of like modeled the volunteering or helping on this crowdfunding model. So we were like, yeah, you give us something now and then you get something later. You get a voucher, you can come in the future and experience the thing you helped to build. One of the weekends was Easter weekend. We had like 40 people here. I was cooking all the food. We have this amazing photo. My dad was here from the States. Like, but there's this amazing
Oh.
picture, with us, this big giant group of people. It was like kind of weekend warrior style for this space. Like every weekend we would do a group photo and I was posting those photos on social media. And I would also go into the city quite a lot to go to events where I thought people might be interested in this idea. I tried to get speaker slots to talk about productivity and nature,
Mm.
how getting out of the city would just give you an extra inspiration and energy boost into your project. So I wanted to find ways to be an expert on productivity. So I found ways to plug myself in and talk about this project from the beginning.
Mm. So here are good insights for people who are even maybe not right away starting a space because it's an investment, but for sure starting a business where you talked about it early, even before being ready, because it doesn't materialize if you don't talk about it and test your idea, right? Is this exactly the need that you're serving? Or maybe people sometimes they just bounce idea back to you. It's like, I like this, and actually I could imagine that space could be for, and then you get a lot of insights to shape your business as you go. So that's, I think, the any entrepreneur should do to start. Also, you define your own business models because there are so many different business models out there, and sometimes you craft your own where exactly at the beginning you need help, and you have co-creators. You have co-creators who might be future customers or their helpers, and that line is blurred, because they just believe in the mission. So there was maybe a higher things that connected everyone together. We want this space to exist. We need this and to contribute. So it was not just your typical business model. You pay to do this as a transactional way, but how can I contribute to make this space exist? Put a piece of my heart into this, because when you work on it, I could have imagined myself being a volunteer, because being just in the space is the reward itself with the people. And then, of course, compensating it in a way you could, okay, help us. And then you benefit from it as well with voucher and so on. And I've met the amazing teams of helpers and volunteers you have there. It's amazing. It was very inspiring. So we talk about like that after 7 years after, since we've run the business a few times. But again, like that false belief, I need to pay people, I need a team before I start. You started actually in a much more creative way, crowdfunded way. Then there's another part also. We talk here about Julianne as the entrepreneur, the partner, the co-founder, but there was another part of your life, which was family. I'm curious of how that fit all together in building that huge baby that is Coconat.
It's kind of funny, like, because yeah, living together in Berlin, we were not parents when we first had the idea. In that sort of funny phase where we were searching for the castles in Brandenburg. After 2 years, then I was pregnant. We were like, man, if we don't find somewhere to do this idea before the baby comes, maybe we have to let it go. And then the baby came, and then we had two other co-founders. So we had built up a small team, and one of those guys, he was like, hey, I just found this place, do you guys want to check it out? And my daughter was like 5 weeks old, and I was like, yeah, let's go. Okay. So we got her in the car, we drove out to this place. That's when we found the place for our proof of concept. We had her in the car. We looked at a place that was supposed to be the one. It wasn't. And then we've discovered a random place on the way out of this weird little village. And we were like, that place looks cool. And that's where we did our proof of concept, at this new place. And we had a baby with us, and she was with us. We spoke with the landlords. She was 5 weeks old then. We found the landlords. We made an agreement for the next summer. We got her into a Kita place like when she was 10 months old. So I'd like ride my bike through the forest and back. And then we celebrated her first birthday at this place. There's beautiful photos of her first birthday where all of our friends came out to this funny place in the countryside we were living at for a while. I mean, it was really wild times. So she has grown up with our project. I mean, she is fully in it. This is like her backyard, you know? And then my second daughter was born 5 years ago, like right before Corona. Oh my God. But she also fully identifies with Coconut. It's so cute. Like, I mean, they have their own secret places here. In the very beginning of opening the real location, that was, I think, probably the most complicated time for work-life balance and also family balance. I mean, we were living on site with a 3-year-old. Yeah, it took a lot of work to get it down, but Also, we both always knew what the other one was doing. A lot of women have had this issue with their partners when they have a baby, that there's a lot of kind of bargaining or competing
Yeah.
for time or for your professional development as well. And
Mm.
we definitely didn't have that. That was like something I can always be thankful that when I'm comparing conversations with my female friends, we were able to make a schedule for ourselves to share this responsibility of parenting while we were building our business together. Yeah, all of it's crazy. I mean, to do this with your partner is also a thing. It's kind of then we're a family business in a way. Like then when people talk
Yes.
about family businesses, I'm like, actually, it is a bit what we are because I almost feel like Coconut's the middle child sometimes.
Probably metaphorically in so many ways. I mean, it's a process of creation. You're giving birth, of course, in a very different way, but with your partner, Janos, it's definitely different levels of creation you've had here. And it's also good to hear, the reality of what it is to be on with your life partner business. And what I hear as well that it applies, for any business, even if you're not romantically involved with your partner, is clear responsibility, a shared commitment, because it's very mission oriented what you do. Support, very important as a mother, and how you share the time responsibility and at the same time your responsibility as an entrepreneur. So it sounds like a lot of work, because this is not happening by luck, but work. So to get there, getting that life where you can carve time for yourself, but run also, after 7 years, you start to mature a bit more of a business and know what to do, how to manage your time and not have those crazy hours, and giving birth while having the business. Oh, that sounds like fun. It's just like chaos of life come to you and then you figure it out,
Yeah.
which is, what life is about in the end. And Coconut is not just, of course, a community space where people come and work here together. When I was there, I saw many other projects, a bit like that Beehive. It was amazing to see the different, like the ecosystem. Could you tell us more about what Coconut is about, or more the wider system that you build around Coconut?
Yeah, I would love to because that's what we're all about. We created a space for people for sure to come from the city and spend time in the countryside and work on their projects. But we always knew for many reasons that we could have a greater impact on the area where we found ourselves. So both Janos and I had worked in NGOs, and we both had worked with tourism as a tool for economic empowerment in different communities. So we wanted to try it out here. We didn't want to be a UFO that landed in the countryside and everyone's like, what are they doing, and feeling funny about it. So we always invited our neighbors to be here. Before we started, we actually hosted a design thinking workshop with 30 members of the local community and 30 members of the community from Berlin who we wanted to invite here to together like sort of envision what this space could be and what it could mean. So we took those wishes from our village and made those come true. So they wanted a space where they could host the local vote. They wanted the firehouse, which just closed this year, but we up until the end of last year we had the local fire department on site as well. Sometimes we host the local Dorf Fest, the Village Fest, and generally we're always keeping in touch with our village to see what they want to do. Most of the people are not co-working, they have different types of jobs, but we still want to make them feel welcome. So when we have events, we make sure to put individual invitations in their mailboxes. So that's kind of
Mm.
like the general main Coconut stuff, or the business part of Coconut. And then on a grander picture, we actually are doing a lot with rural development. So we also work with the region. And
Mm.
there is where we've had a really great impact. So we co-founded a nonprofit called Smart Village, which focuses on creative rural development projects. Because of that, there was a Think and Do tank that moved to the region called Neuland 21. They in turn wrote a grant for the two towns of Bad Belzig and Wiesenberg that brought 7 million euros of digital development funds to the region. Us just being here, we are a connecting point for people who think to move to the region. We have two bigger housing developments. One, they've already moved in with 40 households. So over 100 people just moved in at the end of last year to Bad Belzig. 5 kilometers one direction and 5 kilometers the next direction. The next co-housing community will also move in. So what we've done is sort of acted as a catalyst for ideas and that were already living in this region, connecting the creative people who had energy to give in the region, and working to multiply that in different ways, helping to connect the people and also to show this region to newcomers.
I can see really in your heart you're the connector for sure. And it's embodied in every part of your business, not just, what's happening in Coconut, but also exactly the different legs of the ecosystem connect together and amplify the impact. I'm also in my heart a connector, so that's why from the moment I met you and saw the space, like I think we understand each other, on a deeper level without talking, because just seeing the space, I understood very deeply what you were doing. And I thought also it deserves visibility, not only for the Berliners. Next week it's an amazing opportunity for people who come for a conference and don't want to have a sense a bit of region and not spend time in the city of Berlin, also be spending a few extra days to co-work, have their retreat after all the buzz of the conference. So for listeners here, when you visit Berlin, please check Coconut. I wanted also to spend a few minutes also on what you do with games, because that's also, let's say, one of the door how we connected. It's not the only door, of course, but you have an exciting program and residence happening with the rabbits. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, the rabbit's super exciting. So this project it's a residency for indie game devs. And by residency, we mean that people will live here for 1 month. We have 15 people that live here for 1 month at the same time. And we have had up to 6 to 9 indie studios taking part at the same time, the different versions of the rabbit. So we've already held 3 editions. We're launching the call for the 4th edition actually on Wednesday. During this Berlin Games Week time. So we will be launching it with a median board on Wednesday. I will also be attending a Maze Fest the next day and be at the Womanize event. I'm so excited. I love all this game stuff. So I didn't know anything about games a few years ago. I was kind of identified as someone who's developed residencies, and someone thought, hey, can we do this for indie game devs? And I was like, let's have a look. That's when I really got into it. And I was working together with Median Board Berlin Brandenburg, and they put me in touch with the amazing Berlin game scene. So they really put me in touch with a lot of people. And one of those people is my continued partner in this project, Ruth Lehman, who is the programming director for The Rabbit. She's been in the game scene in Germany for over 20 years or over 25 years. She was involved in Gamescom when it moved from Leipzig to Cologne. So she's just been in the scene forever, and she's just an amazing human being. So she was so friendly, so humble. She didn't make me feel stupid at all. Like, I mean, I didn't know anything. I was like, tell me everything. I know nothing, but I want to build this thing. So her and I worked together a lot on building up the programming for this amazing residency. We've hosted 45 people here already through the residency. And we'll have, the next edition will take place in November this year. We also have connected it with the Games Ground event, which is another Berlin games event. Last year, we brought the rabbits there for a pitch event, which went really well, and we're doing it again this year. So I'm very excited about it. And what we do with this is also connecting. So the Rabbit is about supporting indie game devs, which is an amazing community of people anyway. But we also bring together 50% of the participants are from the Berlin Brandenburg area, and the other 50% are from other places. Last year, we really put effort into have at least one team from the Global South, and we had 2. So we had many, many applications from Africa and from Latin America and Asia, and it was amazing. The applications were crazy. So we had a team from Nigeria, a team from Chile, one independent person. She came from the States. And then we had our other teams from the Berlin Brandenburg area. And part of the idea always of Coconut is showing the strength of diversity. So we want to have people from different places. We want to have underrepresented groups in that sector to be here. So we have underrepresented genders. We have people from countries that might not always come to Europe. But also we want the local people to, it's all about mixing, showing that the more people you know from different backgrounds, the stronger our projects can be, the stronger the ecosystems are. And because it was so successful, we did manage to get the funding again for this year and next year as well. So Brandenburg is also Brandenburg, the state, which is right around Berlin, is fully with us. And this is also a great feeling.
Mm. It's exciting. I also like there's a lot of thoughts put into how you compose again the group, the residency, that diversity of talents from different places, the impact and power to be together in one place in that kind of magical space. It's very creative, and you can really take a step back. So I'm very excited for the groups that will be selected for the process to come together and see what comes out as a creation. When is the application starting? So for the listeners to pass on the information, and when is the deadline? I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much. This is perfect. It's perfect timing, really. So we launched the call on May 14th at 11
Yeah.
a.m. in Berlin at one of these events. So we'll be at the Medium Board Spotlight event, and then it will be open till the 15th of June, midnight CET, so Berlin time. And looking forward to getting applications from around the world again. We have great partners who are helping us spread the word again in Africa, again in Latin America. And we have new partners to help us spread more in Eastern Europe. Looking forward to who comes our way this time.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share the link, and so for everyone who can apply. Few last question, more back a bit a moment of retrospective. 7 years running a space and the whole ecosystem. I know it's a lot to answer in a few minutes, 7 years of business, but what comes up about the things that were difficult in, running this model of business for anyone who has the wild idea to build, first of all, like a connecting space, and other things that turn out really well, and you wouldn't trade for anything else today. So, yeah.
I would say a few things. I would say it's good to believe in yourself and your idea. It's good to take feedback, but not too much. And what I mean by that is, like, when we opened, we definitely had lots of people who were giving us great feedback, but sometimes it was overwhelming. And one thing that we did in the first year that I would recommend everyone to do was make a list of all of our achievements that we had done in the last year. So
Mm.
when you're in the middle of it and you have a lot of like this constructive feedback coming, or even sometimes just very critical feedback of your new project, especially if it's innovative, most people just want to help you out. Like they like you, or they like your project, and they want to give you some helpful feedback. And it can be overwhelming in the moment. And like I had this experience where I felt like I'm not doing enough. Like there's still so much feedback coming. And then we did this retrospective after 1 year of being open. So we had built up a small team at that point, and we went through the year and we were like, we did this. And I was like, oh my God, like we did really a lot. We did so much. And it was so good to really put it in perspective, because I think something that happens when you're in the middle of building up a business, that you're just so busy with all of these tasks. You have huge lists, like
Mm.
Trello boards, like out the butt. And you, and like you just like you put them in a done list, and then you don't maybe look at the done list enough. And I think this is something I would recommend to everybody. We really held on to a lot of our vision, but the main thing that also kept us going also was that it was our values. So for us, like our project was always more about our impact, and we wanted to have a positive impact in the region, and we want to focus on a positive like impact on the environment as well. We wanted to create something sustainable time wise as well. So for us, like being very secure in our values and what we were building and why we were building it also really helped us to keep going. Maybe in some ways it meant that, like, we had to learn how to be business people a little bit more than people who have like an MBA or something. But
Mm.
we had to like learn those things. But on the other side, we were always able to keep people, especially like team members, in, because we were able to share these values. And then I think you can really feel, and our neighbors feel it, and also the region feels it. I mean, we definitely get recognition now for sticking it out, sticking with our values, and really putting a lot back into the community who helped us set up as well. So
Mm.
yeah, these are some of my things as a
Mm.
impact driven founder.
Yeah.
On the one side, like our business is community actually. So, I mean, every day I get to talk to people from all over the place. Like a lot of people from Berlin, but the people from Berlin are also from all over the place. I mean, you're based in Berlin, but you're not from Berlin. I'm also was based in Berlin, not from Berlin. So you just meet people from everywhere. I'm really, really thankful that those people come here to this tiny village in the middle of, of Brandenburg. It's not easy to get here. You don't get here with the S-Bahn. The buses don't run every 5 minutes. So people have to put an effort to get here, and I get to meet them every day and talk about their projects and share what I'm doing as well. So this kind of exchange with the diverse community is amazing. And then the other thing is that we're crazy, so we're always making stuff. I mean, one thing I didn't mention is I'm from an art background. I went to art school, and I get to create things like physical objects all the time. And my favorite place right now is we've got on site, we have a train car. We have an S-Bahn car, from the subway of Berlin. It's actually a prototype from the prototype S-Bahn in Berlin. It's crazy. So it's from 1923. And it's now a co-working space that we just opened 2 weeks ago.
Oh, exciting.
So
I need to come back.
you have to come. It's open now. It's open and it's so nice. It's really, really nice. We restored and converted it into co-working. So it has power cable you can plug in, good internet, and it's just so fun to be in there. Anyway, so another thing that I love is that we do keep creating things and creating new spaces. I mean, we do it together with the community, but also sometimes we do some wild and crazy stuff, and I love that too.
My last question, because you touched on that, you have exciting projects coming up as well. I remember we visited, I don't know how much you can share, but what are the future development you're excited about for Coconat?
Yeah, so we just signed on to become one of Brandenburg's 6 new startup accelerators.
Wow.
It was a big competition. It was many months of applying and getting through different rounds of selection, but we were selected as one of the 6. We'll be making the big official announcements next week, along with the other 5 spaces. So this is very exciting. So over the next 3.5 years, we will be hosting startups that focus on mobility, creating small prototypes in our makerspace, the games industry more as well. We will be inviting female founders with migration background, and basically 4 months of the year, you can expect to meet startups from the Berlin Brandenburg area, but also all over Europe, living here at Coconut, but working on their companies.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is really exciting. So I think
Yeah.
we put the first calls out for the new residencies in July.
Wow. Congratulations for all this development. But I think this is in my space, as I'm working very closely with founders and leaders and what are the needs, there's really a demand. It's not conscious yet of spaces where you connect, you are together in person, because there's really the sickness of just being so much isolated and in your mind, and we need to be around and smell flowers whenever, be a bit more outside. So I think this is very relevant, what you're building. And I would expect just more of it in the future, which I'm very excited about for you, and for Coconut and for the mission you're carrying. Is there something I should have asked you want to share at last before we close today?
I think you touched on one thing that I like to point out is that you can come now and smell the flowers, but you can come anytime. And if you are ever sitting alone in your apartment in Berlin, especially in those dark winter months, you can also come out, and nature is still here. This is what it's very different to have those dark winter months out here, because you still go outside and there's still things to see. And it's really nice to just get out of this sort of the gray pavement.
Okay, then for the upcoming winter, I know it's really rough sometimes in Berlin. Exactly. And there's the sauna. There's the sauna as well.
There's the sauna.
Julianne, thank you so much for making the time, sharing all your story. It's, again, very inspiring. I'm happy we connected that way, where I didn't know full of a story, but I wanted to do this, and we're recording and sharing with an audience. I wish you a great day and exciting projects. I share all in the show notes. And thanks so much for sharing your experience today.
Thank you. And I hope to see you this week at all of the fun gaming events in Berlin.
Yes. I think we will. Yes. Thank you very much. Take care. Thanks for listening to this latest episode of the Rise and Play podcast. We keep growing our community of conscious leaders across the industry and beyond. If you want to join this movement, please share the podcast with other conscious leaders, because we have so much more we can learn from each other. And if you want to accelerate your growth, I offer creative leadership coaching and workshop, plus other free resources that you can find on riseandplay.io. I can't wait to connect with you. Have a great week, and remember to take care of yourself. Until the next time,